it water with the sheep in the box?
Hi there, you. So as you may have noticed, I'm in the middle of sort of pumping out as many Black Lives Matter related videos as I can because I think it's incredibly important to talk about these issues, and I want to inform people about the struggle and about the movement as much as possible because I fully support it, and I feel like a lot of people just either willfully ignore it or are just misinformed about the way things are. So one thing that's been happening in the UK with our Black Lives Matter protests is the tearing down and defacing of particular statues. Now these do make really dramatic and pretty impressive statements in my opinion, like the statue of a slave owner being torn down and thrown into the harbour where their slave ships would dock by the ancestors of those slaves is honestly poetic and beautiful in a way. But that's not the one I want to focus on today, because I think that's pretty cut and dry, and I think even the most ardently conservative person will admit that maybe Edward Colston isn't the sort of man who should have a statue in a prominent area of any British city. Because, and I know this will sound wild, having a statue erected of yourself is basically a celebration of your life. And whilst Edward Colston may or may not have done lots of positive things, he did also do a lot of incredibly negative things, one of which was being a fucking slave trader. But as I said, I'm not really going to talk about Edward Colston because I think that's more cut and dry. And to be honest with you, I very much doubt that anyone outside of Bristol has ever heard of Edward Colston before the last couple of days. I certainly hadn't. He's one of those local historical figures. Like in my hometown, for example, one of those figures is Daniel Lambert, a man who is mostly famous for being fat and having a fight with a bear in the street. Now, as I'm sure you're aware, a lot of people, including Tommy Robinson, who made a hilarious vlog about how upset he was.
Oh man, I'm just watching it and I'm getting so fucking angry. Just thinking, how the fuck can you let that happen in our capital city? How can you move? It's not that you let it happen. You purposely let it happen. You moved the men out of the way that were there to protect that statue, and you made sure that those people could come and vandalise it.
I've been talking about the Winston Churchill situation. Now, what happened there? Well, basically, people wrote under Winston Churchill's name on his statue was a racist. And this upset a lot of very, very knowledgeable people who definitely know a lot about Winston Churchill and history and his political views, and aren't just nationalists who venerate heroes of the past because they've been told to, or because they haven't been taught the more sordid parts of our past. I can attest to this. When I was at school, when we learnt about Winston Churchill, we weren't told about the Bengal famine, for example, but we were told all about how great he was, how he won the war, etc, etc, how witty he was, you know, all that shit. But, and I want to stress this is endemic in British culture. This is ingrained almost. Winston Churchill is on our £5 notes. Winston Churchill is best friends with the Doctor from Doctor Who. Winston Churchill is a stoic hero. That's how we see him anyway. No one thinks to question this. And unless you actually go looking for unsavoury things about him, you won't hear about them. You won't hear about them on the news. You won't have a movie or TV show that acknowledges these things. No. Winston Churchill has been whitewashed, and since no one seems to really want to acknowledge it, I'm going to make this video completely unscripted, as you may have guessed, to just give a few examples of why people say Winston Churchill was racist. So first off, I think we should probably acknowledge that he seemed to buy into the idea of cultural Bolshevism, the well-known conspiracy theory used by the Nazis to condemn both Jews and communists. In fact, he said, "There is no need to exaggerate the part played in the creation of Bolshevism and in the actual bringing about of the Russian Revolution by these international and for the most part atheistical Jews. It is certainly a very great one. It probably outweighs all others. With the notable exception of Lenin, the majority of the leading figures are Jews. Moreover, the principal inspiration and driving power comes from Jewish leaders." When it came to the establishment of Israel, displacing the Palestinian people, Churchill said of the Palestinians, "I do not admit that the dog in the manger has the final right to the manger, though he may have lain there for a very long time. I do not admit that right. I do not admit, for instance, that a great wrong has been done to the Red Indians of America or the black people of Australia. I do not admit that a wrong has been done to those people by the fact that a stronger race, a higher grade race, or at any rate a more worldly wise race, to put it that way, has come in and taken their place. I do not admit it. I do not think the Red Indians had any right to say American continent belongs to us, and we are not going to have any of these European settlers coming in here. They had not the right, nor had they the power." Probably most infamously was Churchill's dislike of Indians, openly saying that he he hated Indians and considered them a beastly people with a beastly religion. During the Bengal famine of 1943, Churchill said that because Indians bred like rabbits, relief efforts would accomplish nothing. He rejected proposals to send aid to India, and due to the ongoing war effort, deliberately diverted food supplies from India to the Allied military, causing millions to die of starvation. He also considered them to be subhuman. Churchill called China a barbaric nation and advocated for the partition of China, writing, "I think we shall have to take the Chinese in hand and regulate them. I believe that as civilized nations become more powerful, they will get more ruthless, and the time will come when the world will impatiently bear the existence of great barbaric nations who may at any time arm themselves and menace civilized nations. I believe in the ultimate partition of China. I mean ultimate. I hope we shall not have to do it in our day. The Aryan stock is bound to triumph." Very relevant to today as well, after the 1920 Iraqi revolt against the British, Churchill advocated the use of tear gas against uncivilized tribes, as a means of dispersing rebels without excessive loss of life or resort to lethal force. "I do not understand the squeamishness about the use of gas," he said. "We have definitely adopted the position at the peace conference of arguing in favour of the retention of gas as a permanent method of warfare. It is sheer affectation to lacerate a man with the poisonous fragment of a burning shell and to boggle at making his eyes water by means of lacrimatory gas. I'm strongly in favour of using poison gas against uncivilized tribes. The moral effect should be so good that the loss of life should be reduced to a minimum. It is not necessary to use only the most deadly gases. Gases can be used which cause great inconvenience and would spread a lively terror, and yet would leave no serious permanent effects on most of those affected." He also described Arabs as a lower manifestation of humanity than the Jews, who he treated as a higher grade race compared to the great hordes of Islam. Oh, and also he ordered troops to fire on unarmed striking miners in South Wales. So I think it should be very clear why people might have a lot of issues with Churchill and why his rhetoric and his history might be specifically relevant to the current situation. Okay, so that's it. I don't know if this will be any good. I don't know if I'll actually ever upload it. Most of this I got just from Googling was Churchill a Racist, and apparently not many people have done that because it was very, very easy to get a lot of these quotes and a lot of this history. But apparently people just prefer watching videos to reading, so I thought I'd put it in video form just for anyone who was interested.